and you're also a researcher on a really interesting component to all of this, which is called the empathy gap. So everybody, could you put your hands together for the beautiful dandy that is Jordon.
Well, I thank everybody for the warm welcome, and yes, it's me, morning team. It's your favourite, Jordon at the screen, as my intro usually is. And I started off blogging on my site, The Screen, and from that sort of springboarded into wider research towards my number one area, which is the human gender empathy gap, which has a very long, colourful and fascinating history, which I will slightly touch on, but I really just want to go into some of the science behind it and how much it actually impacts our day-to-day lives. So, what is the impact of sex or stimulus in empathic responsiveness, aside from being a really long tongue twister? It underpins everything. It is everywhere. Everything that has brought us here today as MRAs, as equality advocates, as whatever we may call ourselves. All of it happened, as far as I'm concerned, because of the empathy gap. Without the empathy gap, I don't think that the enemy would have been anywhere near as successful. It's why they were able to convince us of this elusive patriarchy without being called tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. It's why men are told to man up and take on the chin whenever they face any form of strife or struggle, say nationally sanctioned genital mutilation. Men are essentially told to get over it, that's your job, whereas the slightest of infraction, any minor offence against a woman, is to be considered of national importance, such that a very prominent MP managed to lose his job because he put his hand on a woman's knee and made a pass one time 15 years ago. Something that is really just minor flirting cost a guy his job. And so there's many names for the impact of sexual stimulus in empathic responsiveness. The human gender empathy gap, as most of us know it as, which dictates that we exhibit different levels of empathy for men and for women. Then there's gynocentrism, the fact that we focus and centre our efforts and energies on women. The pussy pass, anyone who follows my blog will be acutely aware of it, in that I run the Women Who Should Be in Prison series. Yes, it's my most successful piece. That one blew up much faster than I thought it would, getting lots of interesting comments in The Guardian and BuzzFeed and other such places. And I essentially remark on how women receive considerably more lenient sentences than men do for the same crime, that is, in the rare occasion they actually receive a sentence. Then there's male disposability, the idea that men are utilities and can be discarded at will. Essentially, they are old rags. Once you've served your purpose, you are tossed. At the bottom of the rabbit hole shows us how the problem is at least 1 billion years old, originating at the dawn of anisogamy sex itself, such that the protection function of males operates even at the genetic level. And the last one exposes the three-dimensional nature of the empathy gap, the importance of sexual stimulus in sex differences in empathic responsiveness. Try saying that one 10 times when you've had a couple of pints. So the three dimensions of this, the first one is the levels of empathy exhibited by both men and women. We know that women are more empathic than men are. Then there's the actual empathy gap itself, the split between men and women, and then there's sex differences in the empathy gap, how as men and as women, the empathy gaps that we feel towards men and women themselves also differ. And dimensions 2 and 3 are those that interest me at the moment. Why is it we exhibit different levels of empathy to men and to women? So, studies that show the empathy gap in action. I'm just going to quickly blast my way through these. So there's Bryant 1982, which shown the effect in children as young as 6, because she was testing the validity of a new test of empathy called the Index of Empathy in Children and Adolescents. And she was just testing the validity, see if it could be used on the grounds that the tests that were available differed depending on the age of the person you were studying, and she wanted something that could be used for all of them. August and Underson, 1998, 2,286 participants, empathy gap shown developing by age. Stoichverson, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, used violence scale on Dutch adolescents, and the female adolescents showed higher same-sex empathy, whereas male adolescents showed higher other-sex empathy. Barry et al., which came out this year, or is due to come out this year, the preliminary results found that in 40 of the 30 scenarios that were tested, significantly more sympathetic towards women. But that study was also looking at other empathy gaps, not just based on sex. Rudman and Goodwin, 2004, female in-group bias is greater than men's, and it's been found that sexual history and experience actually modulates this effect, changes your view of the opposite sex, depending on how much sex you get. Eagley and Mladinic, 1994, the almost infamous women are wonderful effect, and then there's Furl, 1993, male disposability, which we know from his book, and Demura and Pelagi, 2012, the bias in sex of trigger for yawn contagion was found in bonobos, and that's a very interesting study that I'm going to touch on slightly. So yes, Bright 1982, an index of empathy for children and adolescents, based on Moravian and Epstein's 1972 measure, and was selected for 3 reasons. I've touched on one of them already. Because it defines empathy as a vicarious emotional response to the perceived emotional experiences of others. And this differs from other definitions of empathy in terms of the accuracy of cognitive social insight or social affective role taking. I'll probably bring up the rest of my notes. There we go. The test can be administered with ease because it's just a simple pencil and paper test. And there was, as I mentioned earlier, the need for comparable forms of an empathy index for use with children, adolescents, and adults. The measure was found to be valid, but that is slightly outside the remit of today's discussion. So, this study presented the development and validation of the index and used 56 first graders, 115 fourth graders, and 87 seventh graders, and I've included the ages in brackets because being non-American, I didn't understand the grade system. 126 males, 132 females, so fairly sizable number of participants, and they're all in schools and presented with the test. And the way the test was done, the children were presented with 22 scenarios that was essentially dumbed down for kids, because you can't expect kids to be able to empathise with complex adult situations. So things such as, I'm in the playground and I see a girl who's crying, and then on a 9-point Likert scale, they asked, how much would you empathise with the girl who's crying, or how much would you, how much do you care? And so after this test, we got that. So those are the questions, the scenarios that they were asked to respond to, and well, there's the graph that shows the levels of empathy that they exhibited, and you'll probably notice in the centre that massive dip at 4th grade. That did catch the authors by surprise, but it's quite simply the fact that it's called the cootie effect, which I think is quite funny. Like, ew, I don't want to touch you, you can give me boy germs or girl germs, that sort of thing. But I found it interesting how female to female empathy was unaffected. It just sailed right on over like as if nothing was happening. The female to male and male to female both recover from the cootie effect, but post-cootie effect, male to male empathy doesn't actually improve, it gets worse. Good, and this had actually been hypothesized beforehand by Feshbach and Rowe in 1968, suggesting that sets of stimulus would play a part in empathy, and later, using their Feshbach and Rowe effective situations test for empathy, found that 6 to 7-year-old boys were more empathic with boys than with girls, whereas the converse was true with girls. And the White study here expanded further on that effect. Let's skip on over to the next one. So this one is Always and Emerson, 1998, The Importance of Sex of Stimulus Object, Age Trends in Sex Differences and Empathic Responsiveness. I love the titles of these studies. So the primary aim of this study was to examine sex differences and age trends in self-reported empathic responsiveness, considering empathic concern, empathic distress, and a more general empathic responsiveness dimension. And so yeah, that was 2,286 participants, age range about 13 to 16, fairly split down the middle in terms of gender, and the students were asked questionnaires in class as part of a wider anti-bullying campaign or program, but included in it was a scale system similar to Bryant's 1982, about scenarios whether it applies or does not apply at all. And so the elements they were testing was for empathic distress, which is often seen as being related to the individual's own negative arousal in feelings of distress and anxiety, and 4 items in the questionnaire measured this. And then empathic responsiveness was calculated using all 12 items. And I'm choosing to ignore the results of the second question there about bullying for the sake of time and relevance. And so because of the fact that the study was done in 85, I had to redraw the graph. But as we can see, the girl-to-girl empathic responsiveness is highest, and then it goes girl-to-boy, which ascends, boy-to-girl, which also ascends, and then boy-to-boy, which from grade 6, 7, 8 to 9 descends continuously. And it is worth emphasizing that the basic trend pattern identified for the two scales was also found for each of the individual items making up the scales. So that's uplifting to see. So Stuijversen et al. 2016 Gender Differences in Empathic Sadness Towards Persons of the Same versus Other Sex During Adolescence. And again, highly likely I mispronounced that name. Again, based on Bryant's 1982 IECA cross-sectional study, 730 participants, males 420, nice. Females 310. Yeah, that was an internet reference there. And then they did a longitudinal study of 318 participants, 154 males and 164 females. In both studies, female adolescents reported more empathic sadness than did male adolescents. Female targets also received more effective empathy than did male targets, and more importantly, gender differences were observed in same-sex versus other sex effective empathy. Basically, I'm repeating myself, it's the same thing as the other two studies, and there is the graph again, showing the exact same thing as we're expecting. Female to female is the highest, then followed by female to male, then male to female, and then male to male right at the bottom, which is upsetting. Oh, and by the way, all of these effects for the studies are found to be statistically significant for those who are sticklers for data. And so when I put all the studies, and so that's the longitudinal study as well, afterwards. And the time differences between when they did the test was 1 year, and the age of the participants for this one was 13 to 16. So my apologies. And so these are the results over time. So Bryant's study in 1982, the Orris and Emerson in 1998, and the Stuijversen in 2016, showing near similar results over the past 3.5 decades. Worrying stuff indeed. And we see that the empathy gap is greater with men, or with boys, than it is with females, which I find to be odd, very odd. And I think more research needs to be done into why that gap is in some cases 4 to 5 times the size as the female gap. So I wanted to show just some manifestations of the empathy gap and just general male sacrifice in effect. How that young boy dives on his little sister to save her from the hosepipe. That's not going to touch her anyway because we're glass door, but instinctively he's down. But the story on the left, I remember he's oppressing her, that's what it is. It's concern oppression. But the story on the left by the doctor really did touch home with me when I first saw on Instagram. How, I'll just read out for those at the back who can't see it. It says, today I operated on a little girl. She needed O blood. We didn't have any, but her twin brother has O blood. I explained to him that it was a matter of life and death. He sat quietly for a moment and then said goodbye to his parents. I didn't think anything of it until after we took his blood and he asked, so when will I die? He thought he was giving his life for hers. Thankfully they were fine because it's just a bit of blood. But if memory serves, when I looked into the story, the twins were 4 years old. And so at the age 4, that young boy was willing, in his mind, to give his life to save his sisters. So if time allows, I'm going to touch on the yawn contagion. I don't know how long I've been talking for. Am I good? So, yawn contagion. This I find fascinating, this study. Absolutely. 1 minute! Okay, so, yawn contagion. This is an incredibly interesting, as I just said a moment ago, effect. Because as we all know about yawn contagion, it's a right bastard. That if you see someone yawn, you want to yawn. If you hear a yawn, you want to yawn. Even reading about yawns makes you want to yawn. And so, when I was reading this study, and a related study I've not included, but when I was reading these studies, you know, yawn was like every other word. I was practically hyperventilating just reading these studies. Yeah, so, DeMoe and Plagge, 2012. About 50% of human subjects yawn within a few minutes after watching a video of a yawning person. Since most yawn events occur in social context, it has been hypothesized that the infectiousness of yawning may be linked to emotional arousal. Some recent studies suggest that yawn contagion is based on a similar mechanism to empathy, and thus could reflect a basic form of empathy, which can be tentatively defined as the capacity to catch and feel in an unconscious and automatic... Are you going off? Are you? Yeah, you'll set me off. Well, sorry. Which can be tentatively defined as the capacity to catch and feel in an unconscious and automatic way an emotional state expressed by another individual. The linkage between yawn contagion and empathy in humans is supported by clinical, psychological, neurobiological, and pathological clues. Subjects suffering from empathy-related disorders such as autism or schizophrenia show low levels of yawn contagion, whereas subjects obtaining higher scores in questionnaires evaluating empathy and mental state attribution show higher rates of yawn contagion. Contagious yawning activates the posterior cingulate, the inferior frontal gyrus, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and... Hello? Brain parts. Another mirror neuron nerves. I was just saying for anyone in here who's a neurobiologist, just trying to show off my cred, that's what it really is. But all these areas I mentioned are areas known to be part of empathy networks and processes. So it's quite interesting that on a neurological level, that the yawn contagion, of which we're assuming to be related to empathy, is a neurological thing. So although evidence is still up for debate, mirror neurons can be recruited for yawn contagion, and mirror neurons are what goes on in your brain when you're thinking about the actions of others and how you replicate them yourself, and is also involved in learning. So yeah, with the yawning bonobos, suffers from a small sample size, unfortunately, but they had a load of bonobos just living in a zoo, and they were selected as bonobos are similar to humans in terms of behaviour. And behavioural data were collected during 3 months of observation on a group of them housed in a primate park in the Netherlands. During the collection, the colony was composed of 12 individuals, 2 adult males, 6 adult females, and 4 immature subjects. So yes, a very small sample. Daily observations covered a 6-hour period encompassing both morning and afternoon. This was part of a long-term project. A wide array of data regarding various social behaviours and context was collected according to a blind coding protocol, in which the observers were not aware of the hypotheses and predictions that would have been tested. Social hierarchy, kinship, familial relations, social tension contexts, such as social tension versus relaxation, disturbance from feeding, visitation from staff, etc., all of that was controlled for. And this was to examine the effect of different variables on the frequency of yawn contagion. A linear mixed model was run. The dependent scale variable was the relative frequency of yawn contagion by the responder, measured as the number of times such responder had yawn after a given triggering subject's yawn, normalized on the number of occasions, minimum 6. Breathe out of that super long sentence. And I just wanted to briefly touch on how not only do other species exhibit the empathy gap, but it is seriously old. Original divergence between genus Pan and Homo may have occurred as nearly as 13 million years ago in the Miocene period. Hybridization may have been ongoing until as recent as 4 million years ago in the Pliocenes. And they did repeat this study with humans, unfortunately were unable to find statistically significant impact or interaction on sex of yawner and sex of responder. However, it is hypothesized that in correct circumstances you could probably find it. And so here is the graphs. Unfortunately, they're not very easy to look at, but to quote from the study, our finding on a non-human ape, the bonobo, supports the idea that the link between yawn contagion and a basic form of empathy is not due to evolutionary convergence, but is instead a common ancestral trait shared by monkeys and apes, including humans. The higher frequency of yawn contagion between individuals belonging to different genders, figure 4a, and in presence of a female as a triggering subject, suggests that bonobo males are more effectively reactive towards females, who constitute the core of social groups. Masson and co-workers recently demonstrated that in chimpanzees, male yawns were far more contagious than those of females. In addition, individuals of the dominant and bonded sex, i.e. males in pan troglodytes, infected each other at the highest levels. Even though our findings have to be taken with caution due to the small sample size of adult males, in bonobos, yawn contagion appears to support the hypothesis that adult females not only represent the relational and decisional nucleus of the society, but also that they play a key role in affecting the emotional state of others. So these results suggest that yawn contagion is modulated by kinship and social hierarchy, which is why yawn contagion is higher when you're around people you're friendly with, and also why it's higher when the female is the stimulus in bonobos, but higher for male in chimpanzees because of the hierarchical structures. In fact, going further on from yawn contagion, it has been found that distal proximity has less of an effect than emotional proximity, such that I could yawn right now, and people in front row who've only just met me today wouldn't yawn. However, I could have someone who I'm really close to at the back, and they will yawn because of emotional connection, which is why the impact of social structures has such an influence, because it denotes how much power they got. And that, I think, is that for the end of my speech. So thank you.
Hello guys, so we just coming up to our last speaker, and after Will Franken, we will have a Q&A, so please stick around. We still have most of the speakers left. And we'll have like a 5 to 10 minute break before that, because we need to set up for it anyway. But I did want to promote another event that's happening soon. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of a men's rights activist called Deepika India. Well, sorry, that's not her surname. Karen, you can't spell her surname, can you? What's her surname again? Bajrat. Sorry, someone say it again? Bajrat, thank you. Okay, Deepika Bajrat. I can't say her name, I'm really bad. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, she made a film called Martyrs of Marriage, which is about the injustice against men and the marriage industry in India. And she's going to be in London very soon, and she's going to be doing a film screening of this film. So the website is www.martyrsofmarriage.com, and the screening will be on the 8th of December at 7:30 to 10 p.m. at Victoria Hall in Harrow, Sheepcote Road. And I'll tell you the postcode if you want it, if anyone wants to write it down. It's HA12JE. But she'll put the details on her website, martyrsofmarriage.com, spelled MARTYRS of marriage.com. Are we now ready to continue? Okay.
Hi. About midnight last night, or midnight this morning, maybe, I sent a tweet out saying that I wanted to thank Will Franken, this International Men's Day, for being the best comedian working in the UK and a beautiful and complex human being. So, no pressure. And he's now going to provide a model of how we might deal with feminism, and I think it's going to be a good way to end the show. Welcome to the stage.
That's a lot of pressure. Fucking hell. Can you see me with all of the psychedelic stuff behind me? Right, I'm going to do some bits, right? I wanted to write a great... First off, I wanted to come up here and say, never apologize! No more apologies! And I actually had to apologize to get back in here because I tried to sing some crack coffee and the security guard chased me down. So. When he was a man, I apologized to, so there we go. Men apologize to women. Anyway, so I'm going to do some bits for you. I'm a satirist, and I wanted to write this great Christopher Hitchens type speech, you know, and have it all written out. And what happened was Malcolm Young from AC/DC died yesterday, and so I spent the day listening to Toxic Masculinity. Squealer! And that's what I did. Hello, are we there? You know, but there's a little bit of relief. Are we any AC/DC fans in the house? Yeah. And if you saw the BBC, the woman was almost smiling with relief that another toxic male had died. So Malcolm Young has died, and soon it will just be Moby. Relief there. And we go live now to the Women's March in Trafalgar Square with Linda Sarsour. I am here today to speak out for women worldwide against toxic masculinity. Actually, this got me dragged off the stage at a feminist freshers conference in Manchester. One of the impressions I like to do is, this is the front page of every third issue of The Guardian. Thank you, Sister Sahib, for that presentation on Understanding Islam, building a bridge between Islam and the Muslim world. Now we take question on Islam. Yes, we have question. Yes, I'm concerned about women's rights in Islam, particularly with things like stoning to death for adultery. What can you tell us about that? Sorry, I'm not listening. You're a woman. Next question. And those poor, it was up in Manchester, and the girls were, no. I hate feminism, and I'm not so much men's rights as I am anti-feminism. I'm anti any kind of collective mentality, that whether that's the white privilege lie or the toxic masculinity lie, just anything collective, you know, and that's why I supported Donald Trump. That's the reaction I get all the time playing in London, I gotta tell you. I want to do a good job tonight because I don't want to go back to the feminists, man. They are fucking hard to please. But I'll start off with an old bit. I procrastinated so much. I said, you know what, just do some comedy. Because I do bits that get me in trouble all the time. And once upon a time, that's why I moved to this country, because once upon a time, you know, I'm from a small town in the Midwest, right? And I grew up, like, I would watch British comedy and see them just breaking the rules. And what's sad now is if you're in the comedy business, it's all about following rules. It's the exact opposite. Don't say that, it's tyranny, but that's a religion, but it's a race non-religion. You know, the women have it hard, right? And I lived with a fucking Radio 4 producer. She's my first girlfriend out here. And I said, why did you get so-and-so on that program? And they keep saying we have to have more women. And so you hear this mantra, more women, it doesn't matter, merit doesn't matter, it's all this diversity quota box ticking bullshit. So let's rock and roll, man. Yeah. So this is an oldie but a goodie, and I think you guys will like it. It came up to me in San Francisco. The idea came to me. It was about the whole empowerment thing, but it's not really pornography. It's empowerment, and it begins with a little question I'd like to ask all of you tonight. Do you like hot, wet, drippy pussies? Are you ready for the most fucktastic, cum-filled night of your life? How would you like to jizz all over your cum? If you like hot girl-on-girl dominatrix action, then come to the Center for Cultural Expression this Saturday, where the Feminist Council is presenting a week-long study, Subverting the Patriarchy, Restoring Female Sexuality to the Female Body, featuring poetry and performance art by some of the area's most shameless, incest-surviving, sexually abused whores who will do anything to get your dick hard and pointy, and reawaken them to themselves as sexual creatures. If you like loose, drippy pussy lips and strap-on dildo titty fucking, this is the seminar for you. It's time to take part in the seminar. It'll show you how to finger fuck yourself into the shooting oblivion. It's all girl-on-girl action in the name of fucking and sucking and awakening women to themselves as fuckable, cum-filled orifice possessors. If you like to fuck and you like to get fucked, then come to the Center for Cultural Expression. The cost of admission is only £5, half off with the rim job. I made some notes. You know, I was talking to. I came to this issue actually pretty late in the game because I'm not a fan of like any kind of dogma. And I would always go after Islam, and I would always say I was a feminist just to try to win arguments about Islam. And I actually met Elizabeth at a talk Douglas Murray was giving, and I said, well, I'm a feminist. And I've never been a feminist in my life. Right? I just said it because I wanted to win the argument. And, she said, well, I'm not a feminist either. I go, I'm not either. I didn't say that. But when I moved out here, there does seem to be something, I keep asking myself, what the fuck did British men do to their women that has led to this shit? I can't believe it was that horrible. And, so who knows? It's madness. But let's get more comedy, huh? Very nervous. I have to succeed here because, I got blacklisted, What I did was 2 years ago, I gave some fake awards at the Edinburgh Fringe called the Defining the Norm Awards. And there were various categories like the I Am a Woman Award, the I Am Gay Award, and I named names. And it's funny that years later, the Harvey Weinstein thing happened, and I'm seeing bookers who book comedians who are getting emails from women that they're not booking because those women just happen to not be funny. So, some women aren't funny and some men aren't funny, it's possible. And they're being accused of being like Harvey Weinstein, right? So this is being thrown around, and I'm talking to men who are talking about, this adding to their anxiety. So when the Harvey thing first broke, I was a little bit like, okay, fuck Hollywood, fuck the pigs, But there's a guy who's got the same last name as I do in the States right now, and I'm not a fan of him, but the name Franken is in the news, and it's not about me. It's Al Franken. So if you Google my name now, Will Franken apologize? Will Franken apologize for touching a woman's breast? Will he get down on his knees and be henpecked into conscious oblivion? Get down on his knees, very faithfully. I think what I resent about that, it presumes that every man has the same sexual fetish. And I don't like to pay £1,000 a night to be beaten and sissy slut trained. I'm sorry, I just like good old-fashioned missionary sex, that's what I like. So, here's another one, because I was in academics in a former life. I went to university just at the right time before that split happened, when there were, facts into feelings. And I always resented the teachers who would come in with the elephant print dresses and the wooden jewelry and say, let's get rid of these rows, let's make a circle. Now, what do we feel about Monkey Blake? All that shit can handle it. But I do a piss take. I haven't done this one in a while, so bear with me. It's a piss take on a feminist conference. So, let's see. I do voices, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. I'm emotionally retarded. That's how I got out of every relationship. I would just put on a voice. And for like a month, I'd be speaking like some motherfucker from the wild, and they'd be like, I'm getting the fuck out of this motherfucker. I don't think he wants to be in a relationship no more, because he ain't spoken his real voice for a long time. So thank you so much for being here today at the International Women's Day Conference. I'm going to introduce a lovely lady. She's been a great inspiration to me. She's Dr. Jane Meadows. Dr. Jane, a feminist pioneer. Dr. Jane Meadows, please stand up.
My name's Dr. Jane Meadows. I used to be married, I was. My husband used to say things to me like, Jane, pass the salt. Jane, look, pass the salt. One day I refused to be a victim anymore. And I'll stand the fucker in the neck 52 times. And I'll be asking for some margaritas now. Cheers.
What an inspiring story, Dr. Meadows, what a lovely story. Questions for Dr. Meadows? Yes, Dr. Meadows, I'm a big fan of work. I've got a boyfriend, and so far the relationship has not been an issue. But every now and then he does ask for pepper. So my question is, would the same feminist principles apply for pepper as they do for salt?
It's not the condiment that matters, it's the sense of ownership. I'm nobody's fucking salt person.
So that's basically a fun piss take on that. I think we're going to show a little bit of the film. I did a film, so what happened was I got blacklisted from Live Bookers and the BBC for doing those awards. I love comedy. I moved out to this country because of its comedic and satiric tradition, but if we're not allowed to make fun of anything anymore, fuck it. I mean, it'll just be a nice feelings, a group of feelings and fun, and we'll talk about balloons. We've got some balloons here now. Those are nice, purple, and that's why it's going to be like, and I just don't know what we're going to make fun of anymore. It's just, where's the rock and roll? And so I got blacklisted, and Scott Ambrose, where is he? He's filming me actually, Scott Ambrose. He said we should make a movie. And we'd never done a movie before, and so I just thought of a dead white man. Let's do a documentary on William Blake. Any Blake fans here? Yeah. And Blake, see, to me it's all about the art. And you cannot build a civilization, you cannot maintain a civilization through apologies, right? Jonas Salk didn't look at a Petri dish and apologize to come up with a polio vaccine. I mean, Beethoven didn't sit at a piano and apologize note for note. I want to write the Ninth Symphony. I'm sorry, I'm coming forward now. None of that shit, right? We got to rock and roll. And I think, are we ready to go with this?
I think so.
Okay, bear with us. I don't really do a lot of tech. If this goes well, I'll do the bit about the woman that got fucked so hard she couldn't walk for 3 days straight. See, what happens is, everywhere you go, the papers, it's like grope, drip, drip, squirt, drip, drip, but then you can't have sex. It's this weird contradictory message that we're living with, and I think it's really fucking men up. And this guy I was speaking to, total stranger, and men are coming out and saying like, this is adding to my anxiety. And I told him, I don't know if do you guys relate to this? It just adds to a general sense of anxiety. What the fuck is going on? You know, Nottingham, there's a guy from Nottingham here, right? Did you know misogyny is against the law in Nottingham? Yeah. Who the fuck defines that? Why even go out on a Friday night? Stay at home, masturbate, you'll be a lot better off. All right, so what I wanted to do with this Blake film was, it's my belief that a lot of the great literary heroes, and by the way, who's heard of this woman in Cambridge that said that the word genius is insulting to women? Oh. This fucking nun, what an idiot, right? And she's not sacked. I don't know why people like that don't get sacked, but she's polluting the minds of men and women when she puts that out there, in my opinion. So it's my opinion that a lot of my intellectual heroes, if they were around today, would be saying fuck you to political correctness. I don't think it's funny because there's actually another Blake, and we'd never done a film before. We're very working class, and it was Scott with his camera, and we just did some acid and smoked some pot and made this film. But the plan was the first 3/4 of the film were setting Blake in his own time in the context of the Napoleonic and American revolutions, and even writing about Napoleon seemed like it was an offensive thing. Big balls Napoleon, you know what I'm saying? I found the crown of France in the gutter and I picked it up, motherfucker. You know, I mean, big balls Napoleon. Sorry, nobody likes Napoleon here. Should have gone to France and done that bit anyway. Relax, okay. And then the last quarter of the movie, I wanted to put Blake in the context of today and how he would react against, does anybody know the term mind-forged manacles? In the poem London, he wrote about the mind-forged manacles. In his time, he was talking about the attitude that people had towards the chimney sweepers. Like, you know, you've got to clean the chimney, let's send a 6-year-old up the chimney, fuck it if he dies, whatever, this kind of mental enslavement. And I believe that the mental enslavement we're facing today is the white privilege myth, the toxic masculinity myth. What else do we go after, do you remember?
Psychology.
Oh, the psychology, oh yeah, your kid's acting funny, put him in a dress, give him a pill. Whatever, everything masculine is suspect these days. It's a very frightening time. It's very, which is funny, and I should mention this as well. I recently came with that men are defined by shame. We don't need to stand still and receive any shame. There's this idea that stop making things, stop creating things, stand still and receive your shame. But we're defined by our shame. I had my prostate checked the other day. Anybody ever had one of those? Oh my God. And the guy was very gentle. He was nice. We spooned afterwards. But so afterwards, because I don't know anything about a prostate. I don't know what a prostate is. Apparently, is it important? But he did that. And I said, the important question, will I ever be able to have sex again? You know, not after the check. I mean, if they have to remove the prostate. And he said, you are 44. Surely you have had hundreds of women. Yeah, hundreds. You know, so we are defined by shame. You know, we go out there, we earn money, we have to have X number. You know, our whole life is defined as a reaction against shame. And I hate getting personal because it's such an Oprah Winfrey thing to do nowadays. But I did spend 7 months 2 years ago dressed as a woman, and I did this because midlife crisis, I guess. Some people buy a Corvette. I didn't have enough money, so I went to the charity shop. And I did that because, you know, I did not have, I would say, a healthy male role model growing up. And I had 3 sisters and a mother that raised me, and as older sisters would want to do, they dressed me up, and it was a bit of a lark, and sometimes you develop these little escapist habits, you know. And so what happened was living 7 months like that, it kind of cured me of this thing. And because I think this transgender thing is all part and parcel of it. And I worry that there's going to be a time where boys put on the dress because that will be, you know, we always had tomboys, girls would be tomboys. I'm a tomboy, well, she's just trying to be like, you know, the leading figure in the household. And I worry that we're coming to an era where the boy will put on the dress because the dress will be the symbol of power. And I don't know if that's right. Maybe just call me old-fashioned, I don't know. But one thing that I did really resent was the hypocrisy. I've been doing satirical comedy going after the modern religions of our age for a long, long time. And when I first came to this country, I was told by other Americans that the British love you the first year you're out here. And then when they realize that you're staying, they think something's wrong with you. Oh, I thought you had a home in Hollywood. No, actually, yeah, Rumble of the Bailey, what a great show. Like, they think you're weird for wanting to stay in England. And so a lot of the fanfare I had when I first moved out here kind of dissipated the more I took on the PC culture. But when I put on that dress, I was getting a lot of fucking love, and it really made me sick. It absolutely made me sick, and it just felt like a sham. And people would come to shows where I was singing. I had one show where I was singing, "I know Allah's got a plan for me." Thank you. And it was just like, that wouldn't even register. It was just, they only see the superfice. So these assholes that we're dealing with, that run the BBC or run the corporations or whatever, they are the most shallowest people around. They can only see in terms of what you're wearing, your skin color, your gender. They are racist. For lack of, they're racist and sexist, for lack of a better word. You know, it's like the anti-fascists are the fascists, you know. The statue of faith, we choose that. Anyway, let's rock and roll. I want to show you a little clip from this. This is when we take Blake to the, and bear in mind we did do some drugs in the making of this. But we kind of want to do a Pink Floyd, The Wall, stroke, William Blake documentary, modern day. And this is the scene where we come out of dissecting the white privilege myth into the toxic masculinity thing. It's just a little sequence. And thank you for your patience. Anything else? Scott, you want to say anything on this before?
No.
We've never showed it to a crowd before. It is unfathomable to a lot of people. Can I just say this? There was, we wanted to get vox pops of people at the end to say who their British hero was. And I was getting all sorts of reactions like, I don't think it's right to use the word hero. I just don't. I think it's wrong. I think we need heroes more than ever. I think we need people going out there and doing their own thing and not fucking apologizing. The only time I thought Donald Trump was going to lose was when he apologized. The moment he threw his hat in the ring, I said, that he is going to fucking win because people are sick to fucking death of being lectured to. And thank fuck we dodged a bullet that Hillary Clinton did not get in. We dodged a serious fucking bullet. So we're going to show this little sequence. Fuck it out. Fuck it out, yeah. Right. Actually, this is more lecture. You can't say. But the only time I thought he was going to apologize is when he apologized. The only time I thought he was going to lose was when he apologized. The fuck is that? You want a piece of me, motherfucker? I'm so scared. A security guard, man. He had a stroke. He get my myself. But you know. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to show a sequence, and I'll just tell Elizabeth when to stop it. This is from Red, White, and Blake, and I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Find it on YouTube. Okay. Well, this is after the white. Yeah, we made our piece, black and white coming together, and then we put the spinny thing in there because it hypnotizes. We have sound.
Hang on. It's just got to do the same trick again because I think we pulled out the HDMI.
Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry.
That's all right. Well, that's
What's
Scott's
the worst
girlfriend.
reaction to a crowd you've ever got?
What's that?
What's the worst reaction to a crowd you've ever got?
I had a feminist. If I have time to do the bit about the girl that gets fucked so hard she came home for 3 days straight, I had a feminist in the back holding her hand up like that, which is actually quite similar to a Hitlerian. And I had to stop the bit and I had to say, yes, I would like you to stop now. And it sent a chill. It was like being heckled by Hal from 2001. I feel my cock shrink.
What did you say?
What's that?
What did you say to her?
What did I say to her?
Yeah.
Oh, I said, fuck you, I want to do the bit anyway. I don't really, I see, because I'm usually very scripted, and so I stick to the script, and it's scary sometimes, but you got to finish it. I do have a bit on transgenders. Unless there's any transgender, I don't want to hurt anybody. I didn't get a comment to hurt anybody. Can you hear me? Sit there. How we doing?
Still no joy.
I'll tell you what, I'm lip-sync it. Does anybody have a bag? I'll do a big call bag in the meantime.
It's back here.
That's yeah. Whose is it though? Ask him.
hold it.
Is that all right?
We'll use that one.
Tiny bag.
Oh, thank you, dear. Bless her heart. Give her a hand. That's a damn fine looking women here.